Lesson 2. The second Yama is Satya. Satya means truthfulness or non-lying. It means to refuse to go along with lying. Same as that you refuse to participate in violence, to go along with violence, you refuse to lie. You see an illustration there of Pinocchio that is apparently the Italian version of the nose growing when you are lying. But that is not real, of course. When I was a child and I would lie to my mom, she wouldn't say, like Italian people do, your nose is growing. She would say, you are lying. And then I would say, no, I'm not. How do you know? Then she would say, it's written on your forehead. So the first time she said it's written on your forehead, I went to the bathroom to look in the mirror. And of course I saw nothing on my forehead. I went back to my mom and I said, there's nothing on my forehead. What do you mean I'm lying? And it took me many, many years to understand what it means. Of course there is nothing written on my forehead. But you feel when somebody lies. When somebody lies, you feel it. In Italy, they say your nose is growing. In the Netherlands, parents say it's written on your forehead. But the nose is not growing, nothing is written on your forehead, but people feel the distortion of energy when you lie. And it's not a good impression. From a child, maybe you can accept. But from an adult, if it's your friend or a coworker or your partner, when people lie, they make you feel bad, they make you feel dirty, you feel cheated, you feel disrespected. It sounds very severe, but that is what lying does. So like with ahimsa, this is a very underestimated, more than ahimsa, this is a very underestimated principle that deserves a little attention. The yamas exist because they help us to preserve sattva. When we lie, why do we lie actually? Why do we commit violence? Why do we lie? Of course, we do it subconsciously. But even when we act subconsciously, there is a reason why we do the wrong thing or choose to do the wrong thing. We think it will make things easier. We think that it will make an uncomfortable situation go away. Maybe sometimes it works short term, but it always comes back to haunt you. The lie always comes to the surface, and then the real trouble starts. So human beings have a strange tendency, or just a natural tendency, to avoid complicated things. Because of that, it's much quicker to be violent in a way and get it done, get it over with. Because of that, it's easier to tell a lie and just finish it, get over with it. Not realizing that the repercussions that result from the violation of the universal law are often much bigger, much more disruptive and disturbing than actually doing effort to not violate the law. In case of non-violence, that means controlling your ego and your emotion. In case of non-lying, it means to face the discomfort of telling the truth and deal with the consequences of that. The reason why we lie is because we don't want to face the consequences of the truth. But as a result, we make things worse. In the short term, we may avoid it, but it will come back and it will actually be worse. So it requires courage. It requires courage. But it also requires that we are honest with ourselves. I don't want people to lie to me. So it's only fair that I don't lie to other people. Now, like with violence, there are many forms of lies that we do not recognize. If you just tell a lie where you distort the truth, everybody understands that. But if you've read the handout, you may have realized that there are many ways of accepted lies in society that leads to mental disease, illusion, delusion. It also very much so leads to people being disconnected from themselves. Many people live in the illusion that they are something that is presented to them by the media, by the TV, but very much these days, of course, is the influence of social media that became very powerful with the introduction of the smartphone in 2010 or so. And research already shows that children are seriously damaged by things like Instagram and TikTok. Why do I mention this? Because it's a lie. Technically, people are living a lie. So, fashion is a lie. If you wear these and these kind of clothes, or if you have these and these kind of accessories, you are special. The marketing industry makes you believe that this is true, to make you spend money, because that's what it's all about. It's about money. They make you believe in a lie. I come from a big family, and sometimes there are really some helpful examples from my family life and situation to kind of explain what the yoga philosophy is trying to explain. So I come from a family with 7 children. 5 children were born in a row. Every year, 1 child. Then 4 years, no child. Then twins were born. There is only 4 years, but there's a generation gap. Considerable. Anyway, they're twins. They're both girls. Blonde, blue eyes. So they had a lot of attention since they were born. Everybody was... Twins are always, you know, special, endearing, cute. But blue eyes, blonde hair, girls, so they got a lot of attention. They still, for example, they still meet their elementary school teacher. 2, actually. They regularly have dinner and they meet and they, you know, talk about school days and what have you. Very popular. They were very popular, even with the teachers. Now, when they went to high school, they became part of a group of friends, a big group of friends in that school. And this group of friends, 40 years later, they're still meeting. And especially the guys in this group, they all have some things in common that gives them something to identify with. And the thing is you know The Godfather? The movies, The Godfather? It's about the mafia in America. And in the 1980s, there was a series of movies about the mafia from the same producer. They were very popular. They all watched those movies repetitively, repeatedly. And they identify with those movies. They identify with those characters. I've seen them change, the boys, from very friendly, spontaneous, cute, playful guys, always joking and fooling around like, you know, friends do, especially in big groups, just have lots of fun and what have you. If you see them nowadays, they're very, very, very tense. Their face, their expression, they want to look like a mafia boss. I'm not exaggerating. From our perspective, they are living a lie. And don't get me wrong, they have every right to do so. That's their choice. And it makes them happy. Fine. But why is it important for us? Yoga is about connecting with yourself, finding yourself. Many people who are interested in yoga, they are interested not just in yoga, they are interested in finding answers about life, finding answers about myself. I started like that too. It's natural. And we have come to the conclusion that it's those kind of identifications with characters that are created for entertainment that cause the disconnect. It caused the disconnect with us. And as long as we can identify with the character, maybe we feel happy. But when that character is not there, or that identification is not there, we are lost. It's a very serious problem, actually. Yoga, one of the goals of yoga is to make a soul connection, so that we can truly be ourselves again. Most people, me included, most people in the society that we live in, under the influence of media, which is very strongly present compared to years ago, gets stronger and stronger. Many people lose themselves. Many people lose connection with themselves. And we compensate for that by spending money on adventures, spending money on goods. We create a fake happiness based on material things, which is fine too. Enjoy it if you can and if you want to. But that happiness is fake and it fades away. So you have to buy something new again, and you have to buy something new again because it fades away. It's okay to use goods, products, enjoy them, luxury goods, whatever, if you can afford it, buy it, enjoy it, but not at the cost of the connection with yourself, because the goods can make you happy temporarily, but what really helps people to find happiness in life is true connection with the self. And it is those identifications, those illusions, that lead to schizophrenia. It's a mental problem that can lead to serious problems in society. Problems that you can see all around you. A lot of nasty behavior of people being arrogant and feeling entitled is because of this. The formula, the yoga formula of finding happiness in life really is to try to be yourself. And how is that related to truthfulness? It is truthfulness to be yourself. When I was a teenager, I was in a very dark place. When I was 13 years old, my parents divorced, and there were other things going on that made me very unhappy. Before that, I was a happy-go-lucky little boy, always playing sports and fooling around and joking and spontaneous and naive. But at the age of 13, I lost that. I just got into a very dark place, depressed, or what have you. That lasted for a while until I was sick and tired of it. I was sick and tired of myself being in that situation. So one day I sat down and I asked myself, what do I want? I don't want to live like this anymore. So what do I want? And the answer was very simple. I was being honest with myself. The answer was very simple. I just want to be happy. Many people, if you ask them what do you want, they will say, I want to have a nice car, or I want to be rich, or I want to be a doctor or a pilot. I didn't think about all of those things at all. I just wanted to be happy again. So naturally, the next question then came up. How do you do that? How can I do that? And the answer to that was also very simple. I realized that to be happy again, like I was before 13, I just had to go back to being myself again. I had lost myself in the darkness. And since then, that is what I have been pursuing ever since then. For the past 45 years, that is what I've pursued. And I'm still. And it is very refreshing not to have to pretend. And it frees up a lot of energy that you then can use for constructive things in life. And very importantly, When people are not themselves, other people feel that. So they avoid you because it doesn't feel right. Instinctively, they just want to stay away from you. So you become very lonely as a result. You see that with the friends, the circle of friends of which my sisters are a part, they feel reinforced when they meet each other because they strengthen that identification with the Godfather, with the mafia characters. But when they can't meet, they're lost. That identification that strengthens them isn't there when they cannot meet. It's devastating. This is part of truthfulness. We live in a very complicated world. We grow up being told what to do, how to do, who to be. And many people end up being unhappy. They're not aware of who they truly are. They're not connected. And it leads to unhappiness, to say the least. And lots of mental disease is the result of this issue. Satya is being yourself. Satya is to not go along with all the illusions that the media is throwing at us. It's very tricky because it's the most important element of life these days, the media. So it determines how we function. If you are aware of that, you can use media for your benefit. If you're not aware of it, you become a slave of it. You become a victim of it. I don't know if you watch TV. I watch TV because I like to observe people's behavior. So I like especially, I like to watch the news, and I like documentaries, people being interviewed and etc. And one of the things that really stands out is politicians boldly lying. They know that they are lying, and they are not ashamed of it. They are motivated by greed or status, and it leaves a very nasty taste in my mouth. You would expect that people who represent the population as politicians, that they would have higher standards, but clearly most of them don't. But very interestingly, there are some that do have moral values, and you can immediately feel the difference. When people speak who have moral values, you feel admiration, you feel respect. Well, when people speak who boldly lie, even knowingly, it just makes you want to puke, makes you want to vomit. Yeah? So it has a huge impact. The impression that people get from you when we lie just determines how they will treat you also. Now, out of good intention, we often tell lies to people in the form of compliments. Parents will tell their children, Look, I come from a big family. My mom was too busy to be personal with each child all the time. But these days, families have only 1 or 2 children. So they get a lot of attention from the parents, maybe the grandparents. And you want your child to be happy, so you tell your child, you're beautiful, or you're so smart. And we repeat that time and time again. Now, in Korea, you have this phenomenon that is called the princess syndrome. The princess syndrome. Every child thinks they're special. And that's okay before they go to school. But try to imagine when a child, since birth, is constantly being told, you are the most handsome, or you are the prettiest, cutest. You are the smartest, you are most intelligent. You give this compliment with a good intention, but now imagine the child going to school for the first time, and there are 25 other children who all think that they are the smartest and the cutest and the most handsome, and it's very confusing for the child, because now the child realizes they are not so unique, that they are not alone. So we have to learn to be careful with our compliments. Same as with adults. We want to make people feel good. So we meet somebody and you say, oh, you are so handsome. Or you are so pretty. But everybody knows themselves, right? If you say to me, oh, you are so handsome, then I think, huh, have you seen my nose? I have a big crooked nose and I'm bald But they didn't have a bad intention. And yet, it makes me feel bad. Because I know it's not true. When I introduced the subject of non-lying, I said that we lie to take a shortcut, to make complicated situations easy. That is also what we do when we give a compliment. We want to be nice, but we don't want to do the effort to be nice. So we just say something commonplace like, oh, you are so beautiful, or you are so handsome. The person knows it's not true, so you miss the goal. And in fact, it may be a bad start of that relationship, professional or personal. If you're honest, do not tell somebody who is not particularly handsome that they are handsome or pretty. Do some effort. How do you do that? Just look at the person, observe the person. Do they have a nice haircut? You can say something about the haircut. Or are they wearing special shoes that are, stand out, they're classy, or say something about the shoes. But say something, give compliment about something that deserves a compliment. Then people will say, oh, that person really paid attention. It's totally different. Truthfulness has a huge impact on how you interact with others and how they interact with you. Now, truthfulness suggests that we're always being honest, that we always tell the truth. On page 2, towards the bottom, you see an elephant. The illustrator, the person who edited my files, he put all these illustrations there. It's not my work. It's because I mentioned that if you're bluntly honest, which sounds like a negative, and it can be, your behavior can become like a like an elephant in a China store, or a bull in a China store. What does that mean? Sometimes being too honest can hurt. It can violate the first principle of nonviolence. For example, children are developing, they are growing. Certain knowledge can traumatize them. If a family member has an accident and severely wounded or dies, there is a way that you have to present that to a child without hurting them. So you cannot just be honest and just tell about the terrible accident that happened, because that can shock and traumatize the child for life. So in English you have the concept of a white lie. In Korea you have sonye 거짓말, right? Well, this is a little bit tricky. Lying in itself is still a lie. So a white lie is still a lie. But what we're trying to get at here is that we are a little bit tactful, that we are a little bit diplomatic in certain situations. When revealing a certain truth to a certain vulnerable person, we need to present that in a careful way. It is, again, like everything else that we talked about until now, it's a matter of doing a little bit of effort. We have to do a little bit of effort so that we do not cause harm by telling the truth. Next week, when we discuss the next Yama, the Yama of non-stealing, we will come back to this, because non-stealing and non-lying can be related to each other. Because when you withhold the truth from people, it is in fact theft. You are stealing, committing theft. So we will come back to that next week, and I will give you an example of the devastating impact that telling the truth can have. So before you act, it's better to first ask yourself what the consequences will be of the information that you are going to reveal. Yeah, page 3 is a situation that happens very often. If you're in a relationship, you have a partner, or if you are part of a family, parents and siblings living in one house, there's always interaction, and often there is a question, are you okay? Or how are you doing? Or how was your day? And very often, unintentionally of course, we answer with a lie. And particularly in a relationship with your partner wants to understand what's going on with you and try to be supportive maybe. But very often it happens that we reply by saying, everything's fine. Or, is something wrong? Nothing. Your partner or your sibling or your parent knows that you are not being truthful. They asked you out of consideration, out of care. Now what happens is that when they try several times, and every time they get an insincere answer, they will simply stop trying. Maybe you recognize this. And that is, when you're in a relationship, it leads to a disconnect. And you just start living separate lives, just tolerating each other. So again, it's about doing a little bit effort. And when somebody asks you a question, how was your day? Or how are you doing? Sometimes people feel that you are a little bit sad or a little bit stressed or a little bit unsettled. If you answer that with nothing, I'm fine. It cuts off every communication at that moment. The reason why we do that again is out of convenience. We don't want to go into an uncomfortable conversation where we have to talk about what we feel or the things that happened today at work, but it leads to a friction. It leads to a disconnect. All we need to do is a little bit effort to speak the truth, to answer the question. Because not answering a question, if I ask you a question, if you ask me a question, you deserve an answer. And an answer, of course, that is as truthful as possible. Because of this, I always reply to messages and emails. Always. I think that is normal. Many people don't. There are many occasions where you contact somebody and there is no reply, there's no response. That is theft. That is considered to be theft. Because when you ask a question, you have a right to an answer. And that goes two ways, of course. When somebody asks you a question, they have a right to an answer. It's again about having to do effort for the sake of sattva, preserving harmony within yourself, but also within the context of family life, relationships, the office environment. Because maybe you can relate to this. When you have colleagues or family members that are not sincere, that are not honest, you will shun them. You will avoid them. And maybe behind their back you will gossip in a negative way about them. So it has many implications in chemistry between people and the environment of which we are part, whether that is personal as a family or in the work environment or when you're part of a community. From today, try to look at interactions with other people and the way other people interact as an observer, how this works, how this affects people's interaction, people's relationships. Then you will understand, you will realize the practical importance of Satya, truthfulness. Questions? Okay. Let's have a short break. Yes, go ahead.
When you are truthful to others,
yeah,
but the other is not truthful to me,
yeah,
what can we do then?
That is a situation. Look, as a yogi, as a yoga practitioner, you will strive more and more for non-violence and truthfulness. But you are a yogi, you are changing. Other people are not. You cannot expect from them to function in the same way as you do. That is kind of sad, but the good thing is we are changing, we are transforming, we are growing. Other people are not. It means in the long term that the people that you associate with will change. You cannot force people to be truthful. So what happens is that you are being truthful, that person is not, and every time that you interact and you are being confronted with untruthful behavior, it will cause friction, it will cause irritation, it will cause disturbance. How long can you live with that? Maybe you can live with that for the rest of your life, you can just accept it because there are many good things about that person. So you can accept that one negative thing. But it can also escalate. That you come to a point that you say, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to be like this anymore. I don't want to accept this anymore. And at that point you have to make a choice. And when that time comes, you will know. It's a little bit delicate, a little bit sensitive, because we're talking about relationships here. Relationships that we started before we transformed, and then we are growing, we are changing, while the other people stay behind, and then friction can start to occur. Conflict can start to occur as a result of that. And that means at some point adjustments needs to be made. As you will notice as a yogi, you will become more selective about the people you want to spend your time with. There may be people that you have known since elementary school and you've always been good friends with them, that you lose interest because they're just not on the same wavelength with you anymore. And you're still friendly with them, you still contact once in a while, but you don't want to really hang out with them anymore, socialize with them anymore. That's just because you are changing and growing and they did not. And that's something we need to accept as part of the process that we are in. Life will become more simple as a result, simplified. Thank you for the question. Let's have a short break before we start with asana.